Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, Wuthering Waves 2.8 has just concluded its live stream. All of the official details for the version are out on the website, and what I wanted to do was actually take the time to kind of like record, this is after the live stream by the way, kind of like record what my thoughts are overall on this patch, on this update, with some of the additional information that wasn't actually launched, or that didn't actually arrive in the live stream. And I just want to say at a baseline, I think Wuthering Waves is a good step in the right direction, but it's not really that rich of a patch. And what I mean by that is I think that this patch has definitely listened to a lot of the feedback that's been given over the past 120 or so days regarding the game, but it also does feel like that feedback has kind of come at the cost of some of the other elements of the patch. And I actually have my game open. I actually have the, the 2.7 patch kind of like in its full entirety on my on one of my other monitors, and I wanted to use that as a bit of a backbone for this discussion. Before we do that though, I just kind of want to run through all of the stuff that's going to be in this update, give my thoughts on some of the pieces, and then of course kind of like go into the whole. I think that like Chisa overall, like the story, the new area, the design, all of that, it looks great. It looks fantastic. Just wanted to get that out of the way. And the fact that they're going to have both main quests available in the first half without needing to wait, I think is the right thing to do for a patch like this. Having a split up main quest where only one half is available at the start of the patch and then the other half becomes available in the other half, that works well when there's a lot of content in the patch. And when there isn't, it's not really the best approach. And the way that I view this is that this patch doesn't really have a huge amount of content overall. And so it was a way better idea for them to stuff both of them right at the beginning. So good move on Kuro from that end. I think they learned from 2.7 and the fact that nobody played Shuyan's after story. So it does seem like they're reacting to that feedback in more real time. Next up, we're going to have the Zani outfit. I'm not gonna lie, this thing looks kind of mid. I'm not the biggest fan of whatever is actually like going on over here. I think it looks like okay. I think it definitely could have been better. I think she looks a lot better in like her liberation form where like half of her clothing is gone, but that's because I think the actual outfit's kind of ugly. It's not the actual fact that she's like, getting more and more gradually naked as she uses her abilities. It's like the outfit is kind of goddamn ugly, and so she looks better when part of it is gone. That's the, like, straight up, it's like the anti-Gooner take. It's literally the anti-Gooner take. That's the approach I'll take with it. New location, the Chrono Rift Metropolis. Yeah, this place looks fantastic. Yeah, this place looks amazing. It gives like that sort of like blend between like overgrown, run over vibes with like a very like refreshed sort of like Metropolis modern sort of environment. I love all of like the willow trees, the willow cherry blossoms. You guys remember these from fucking RuneScape? Y'all remember that shit? You would like cut these near like that one lake and like there would be like those wizards and shit that would be around there. Yeah, these look like pink versions of that. Kind of like a bit of a, it's a cool little vibe over here. New echoes. Nobody cares about these. They're just the one cost echoes. We just got new Nightmare Sonata sets, right? New Phantom Echo. Yeah, the Sovereign is chromed out. It looks pretty cool. Awesome. And then they got a new Sonata set effect. And this one is naturally, everyone knows this one is for Chisa. And this one is just, hey, if you inflict Havoc Bane, get ready. You're going to get some massive goddamn buffs. 20% attack and 30% damage bonus. Insane. We might have a separate video out on this later. But yeah, this just looks like it's going to be a great set for any Havoc Bane users. Then they, of course, are going to have the new tactical hologram. And this is one of the cool things that I think that they did that wasn't really talked about enough. Updated negative statuses, and we'll be making sure to put out an actual video on this later and talk about some of the stuff that's going on. Basically, they've entirely reworked everything that isn't arrow erosion or spectrofrazzle, the damage over time ones, and they've added some new effects over here that are like stackable burst damage. It seems like some of them even have like a little bit of CC2, reducing movement speed, and then other ones. This one over here looks like it's a combination of a DOT and then a detonation for electro flare. So yeah, that's some pretty cool stuff. When it comes to the quality of life that's going to be in this patch, I think it's really cool that they did the echo absorption. I also think it's really neat that they really streamlined the upgrading materials process, and they went ahead, right? And for combat and the end game, they've changed up some of the stuff in the menu, and then they have the auto mute option. You're going to notice, right? Really, really, really interesting. This breakdown, this whole sort of like lineup over here that they got going on, it feels like some of the stuff is missing. That's actually because there's a second page over here. It just wasn't connecting. Now let's take a look at some of the events that are actually going to be in this patch. You're going to notice, yeah, this entire like first section wasn't very long. And this entire second section isn't very long either. We just have all the characters, all the weapons, right? The banners, they're taking up a lot of space. And these are the actual events that are in this patch. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where I think the meat of the discussion is about to begin. I feel like Kuro Games rotated a lot in the direction of having actual genuine combat events. Stranger Things in Honami, right? That exploration / combat event where we're going around in the city. We got like actual combat stuff going on. We got like inventory management, and then like a little mini game, a little story that we can go into here to like buy upgrades and do stuff like that. That's the flagship event of this patch, right? And the event that most reminds me of is actually Banners Never Fall, where we did a combination of like exploring, combat, moving around the city. It looks like we're going to be doing a similar sort of thing over here. It's great to see an event like this, especially following after the fact that the last 3 flagship events that we've had in the game, they've not actually been places where we can use our characters. This event over here actually looks like a place where we can use our characters that we pull, that we spend money on, that we build, that we grind for, so on and so forth. This event came out in version 2.4. And so yeah, it had been around 120 days since we had gotten anything close to this. And I'm not gonna lie, the design of it does look pretty damn neat. I really love how they're like incorporating these more like, you know, these are like RPG elements, but in like a different fashion. It looks a little bit fresh. It looks a little bit like way more varied compared to the stuff that we've had before. And then naturally, they've got like all the other progression and stuff that's going to be tied with it too. This looks awesome. This looks great. I'm very, very excited that it's going to be there. And then they're going to be following up on it with Tactical Simulacra, the boss rush event. And that's going to be huge too. That's going to be crazy. That's going to be awesome. They're going to have like special buffs for a bunch of different bosses and all of that. But then following that, they don't actually have that much. I don't really consider photo collection to be an event because it's entirely permanent. It's basically just a part of exploration at that point, and then it just gets like bundled into here. And then they're gonna have kind of like a login event with like a fresh look with this Lolo campaign rising anew. So that's something that they got going on. That's a little bit neat. That's a little bit cool. Not too engaging gameplay over here, but I'm not going to complain about having one login event in a patch. Well, it's really 2 login events, but the 7-day login is literally just press a button. And then after that, there's not really another event other than the preview one where we get a little bit of lore surrounding Lahai Roy. But I don't really think this is really meant to be like the most comprehensive sort of event ever. It's not even meant to be like a mini game. It's just a bunch of dialogue, right? Where you go around to various parts of the world and then you just yap with something. You just yap with an object and then you just get some information about Lahai Roy. A lot of people might just skip through this entire thing. Others will be able to get a bit of a lore reveal. But that's all the events in the patch. And if we're going to be out here and I'm going to be critiquing 2.7 as an update that didn't have a lot to do in the game, I'm not going to go out here and pretend that this update is one that has an insane amount of stuff to do. However, it has a lot more to do for the audience of the game that actually enjoys the combat. But on the other side of the equation, if you're somebody that liked this shit, if you like, or sorry, not this shit, if you like this shit, and then you also like this shit, you might not like a lot of stuff in this patch. Like, if you're somebody that really liked, fuck it, freeze frame, action photography, shit, you might be a little bit upset with this patch. Because I'm going to be honest, there's no, like, goofy casual minigames. There's no Septimont weather forecast. There's no, like, mindless sort of, like, puzzle side activity or, you know, kind of like chore that's in the background that just, like, takes time to do. Because this is something where there's no difficulty involved. There's nothing to, like, really think about as you're going across the gameplay. It's absolutely mindless. It just kills, like, several hours of your time. They don't have, like, that in this update. And I don't know. Did Kuro do an over-rotation? Is them removing all of that stuff, is that going to be really, really good for the game? I'm not really entirely sure. I thought that this patch was going to have a bit more of a balance, if that makes sense. I expected there to be, I would say, more events at a baseline, and then they would include something a little bit more goofy, a little bit more casual, something like freeze frame action photography on top of it all, right? Because they have like a bunch of those mini games, a bunch of those kind of like goofy things in the back end. They could have just reran like the painting thing or like the digital footprints of like the beasts. They could have like reran one of those events as well. But the fact that there's like nothing almost makes me wonder, have they just stopped with those events completely? Or are they just simply taking a break for now? I don't really know. Somebody said define over rotation. This is basically, right, you can respond to feedback, but then you could like make the decision, hey, somebody said, so imagine you're running like a burger restaurant, right? And then somebody says, I wish you guys had more chicken sandwiches. And so you hear that feedback, and then you take 90% of your burgers off the menu, and then introduce 10 more chicken sandwiches. And then you go out of business. And then somebody tells you afterwards, you might have over-rotated into chicken sandwiches when your main appeal was burgers. That kind of fucked you. Kind of like how Kuro Games seems like they over-rotated into Giga Casual minigame events for 3 patches. And on the flip side, it's not bad to have those. It's just bad to have too much of them. And it feels like in this update, they got none of them. My take was, I simply wanted more combat events in this game. I didn't necessarily want the removal of all the casual ones. But it does seem like in this event, it's just logins, combat, or lore. And there's not really like that Giga Casual event that's there in the background. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to see how many of those enlightened individuals with 3 children and 75 jobs. Sorry, I think it was 75 kids and 3 jobs. Or was it 7 kids? I don't really know. We'll just have to see what those individuals have to say when they're complaining about what's in this update. I don't really think these events are going to take that long. They're probably going to take less time than all the other stuff that we have in here before. Like, for example, this shit took like 4 hours, bro, to get the time-limited rewards. You can't be out here telling me that the combat in the game or whatever is going to take too long when this shit literally took me 4 hours to do. I will just say overall for this update, I think it's a good step in the right direction. I'm just a little bit concerned, actually, about the casual audience. Because it seems like it's very, like, all or nothing when it comes to, like, the content that's going to be in the update. I would just love to see, like, a better balance moving forward, making sure that we're not, like, alienating one part of the audience in exchange for the other. I think we're allowed to appeal to everybody. Right? I think we're allowed to have a little bit of something for everyone. And I think this is an example of an update where a starving crowd has gotten what they've wanted, but another part might think that they're starving soon. That's why I gave this one a rating between like 7 to like 8 out of 10. Some could call it a 7.5, and I feel like a lot of other CCs are in that line of thinking. Let me know what you all thought about my reasoning, my thoughts on this update, and whether or not you agree. Sorry, my cough is going crazy right now. It's like 4 a.m. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.